The sun shone brightly over the small, picturesque town of Pinewood Springs, reflecting off the surface of the shimmering lake that sat at the edge of the valley. For Marcus Jefferson, this lake wasn't just water, it was family legacy. He had grown up here, fishing with his father, learning the rhythms of the seasons, and dreaming about owning the land one day. Little did he know, today would challenge everything he thought he knew about justice and property. Marcus had recently built his dream home near the lake. He had invested every penny, making sure the view of the water was unobstructed, the dock sturdy, and the garden immaculate. Life felt perfect, until the letters started arriving. The first letter was innocuous, a notice from the Pinewood Springs Homeowners Association, HOA. Please remove all structures from the lake property immediately, it demanded. Marcus frowned, certain there must be a mistake. He owned the water rights. His family had legally purchased them decades ago. No HOA could take away what he, and generations before him, had fought to secure. Ignoring the warning felt dangerous, but Marcus wasn't one to back down. The next morning, he drove down to the lake, clipboard in hand, ready to gather every document, deed, and historical record proving his ownership. Sunlight danced on the rippling water, mocking him in a way he couldn't place. Suddenly, the HOA's lawyer appeared on the path leading to his dock, a smug grin plastered across his face. "Mr. Jefferson," he began, "our records show that this lake falls under the HOA's control. You are trespassing." Marcus laughed, though it was tinged with anger. "Trespassing? I own this lake. My family has held the water rights for over 40 years. You don't get to just waltz in here and claim it." The lawyer's smirk didn't fade. "We'll see what the courts say. Until then, we advise you to comply." Marcus spent the morning in his home office, sunlight streaming through the windows. Stacks of old folders, yellowed papers, and photographs filled the desk. Each document was a piece of history, a piece of proof that the lake was legally his. He flipped through a deed signed by his grandfather, a ledger showing water rights transfers, and letters from the county confirming ownership. The more Marcus examined, the more he realized how carefully his family had protected this property. His grandfather had fought battles with developers, ensured the lake remained private, and even built the original dock with his own hands. This wasn't just a plot of land, it was the culmination of decades of perseverance. Marcus knew that the HOA was powerful. They had money, lawyers, and influence. But he also knew something they didn't. He understood the law, the history, and the strength of community. He decided he wouldn't go to court unprepared. Every document, every witness, every photograph mattered. By late morning, Marcus was ready to visit old neighbors and friends who had seen his family maintain the lake over the years. He knocked on the door of Mrs. Hargrove, an elderly woman who had lived in Pinewood Springs her whole life. Her eyes lit up when she saw him. "Marcus. What brings you here this bright morning?" she asked. He explained the HOA letters and their threat to take over the lake. Mrs. Hargrove shook her head, her voice firm. "That lake has always belonged to the Jeffersons. I've fished there since I was a child. They have no right to touch it." Her words gave Marcus more than hope, they gave him witnesses. He noted everything, recording conversations where neighbors recalled family picnics, fishing competitions, and the countless summer days spent by the lake. By afternoon, Marcus had compiled a growing folder of proof, legal deeds, photographs, personal testimonies, and historical records. The sun reflected off the water as he stood on the dock again, feeling a surge of confidence. The HOA might try to intimidate him, but Marcus had the facts, and facts were stronger than threats. A sense of calm settled over him, but he knew the battle was only beginning. The next step would be confronting the HOA's representatives, armed not with fear but with undeniable truth. As the sunlight hit the surface of the lake, Marcus whispered to himself, "They think they can take this away, but they're wrong. This is our legacy, and I will fight for it, daylight or no daylight." The next morning, Marcus arrived at the lake earlier than usual, the sun just beginning to cast golden streaks across the water. He could see two men in suits walking toward the dock, carrying briefcases and exuding authority. It was the HOA's enforcement team, ready to serve their ultimatum. Marcus didn't flinch. He took a deep breath and walked toward them, holding his folder of evidence tightly. "Good morning," he said evenly, his voice firm. "I assume you're here about the lake." One of the men, tall with a sharp jawline, smirked. "Mr. Jefferson, the HOA insists that you remove your dock and all structures from this property immediately. You are trespassing, and we're authorized to take action if you refuse." Marcus opened his folder, spreading documents across the dock railing. "You have no authority here. These deeds, county records, and testimonies prove that I own the water rights. This lake has been in my family for decades. You cannot take it from me." The men exchanged glances, clearly underestimating him. "We'll see what the courts say. But for now, it would be wise to comply," the other man said, trying to assert dominance. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Comply? I've spent my life building this property, caring for this land, and protecting this lake. I won't be intimidated by threats, and I certainly won't hand over what's mine. You'll have to go through the legal process, and when that happens, I will not back down." The tension hung in the air like the heat of the midday sun. The HOA men looked uncomfortable, realizing that Marcus was prepared and confident. Marcus noticed the smallest hesitation, the cracks in their professional facade. It gave him hope. "Perhaps you should leave for now," Marcus added, his voice calm but commanding. "I suggest you reconsider your approach before you escalate things. Daylight makes the truth visible, and the truth is on my side." After a few moments, the men reluctantly backed away, muttering threats about legal action. Marcus watched them walk down the path, the sunlight glinting off the water like a promise. He knew this confrontation was only the beginning, but standing tall in the daylight, he felt invincible. By late afternoon, he was already planning his next move, gathering more witness statements, documenting the lake's use, and preparing for the inevitable court showdown. The HOA might have power, but Marcus had history, law, and unwavering determination on his side. As he walked along the shoreline, the sun reflecting off the rippling water, he whispered to himself, "Daylight reveals everything. And today, it revealed that they underestimated me." The morning sun bathed Pinewood Springs in a warm glow as Marcus set out to visit more neighbors. He knew that legal documents alone might not be enough. The HOA had influence, connections, and money. But the truth, witnessed and remembered by the people of the town, could become an unshakable shield. Marcus stopped by the local cafe, a quaint place where townsfolk gathered to chat about news, politics, and the latest happenings. He pulled up a chair and began speaking to anyone who would listen. "The HOA is trying to take my family's lake," he explained. "But this lake isn't just property, it's history. My family has owned the water rights for decades, and we won't give up." Whispers of surprise and concern rippled through the cafe. Many had seen Marcus's family maintain the lake over the years, repairing the dock, cleaning the shoreline, and hosting fishing contests for local children. Their memories became his allies. One elderly man, Mr. Thompson, nodded solemnly. "I've known the Jeffersons all my life. That lake has always belonged to them. I'll testify if you need me." Marcus's confidence grew. By late morning, he had gathered multiple neighbors willing to back him, not just with words, but in court if needed. Each person's story added layers of proof, picnics, community events, and countless days spent maintaining the lake. Returning to the lake in the afternoon, Marcus felt a surge of pride. The water sparkled under the sun, almost as if reflecting his determination. He began creating a timeline, linking deeds, historical records, and neighbor testimonies to form a solid narrative. This was no longer just a fight for property, it was a fight for truth and justice. By early evening, Marcus had a plan. He would present his case to the HOA, armed with the evidence of law and community support. Their threats might have seemed intimidating, but daylight had a way of revealing reality. And in daylight. The next morning, the sun hung high over Pinewood Springs, bright and unyielding, as Marcus prepared to take his first decisive step in the battle against the HOA. He had spent days gathering evidence, documenting the lake, and rallying neighbors, but now it was time to bring the fight into the legal arena. Armed with his thick folder of deeds, historical records, photographs, and signed testimonies, Marcus walked into the small town courthouse. The air smelled faintly of polished wood and paper, and the sound of typing echoed from the clerks' desks. His heart pounded, but he kept his stride confident. Today wasn't about fear, it was about asserting truth. At the front desk, he requested an official filing to challenge the HOA's claims and protect his water rights. The clerk, a young woman with glasses perched on her nose, looked up, surprised. "You're filing against the HOA?" "That's ambitious," she said, stamping the forms. Marcus didn't flinch. "I have all the proof I need. This lake belongs to my family, and I intend to defend it." By late morning, the papers were officially submitted. Marcus left the courthouse with a sense of empowerment. The battle had officially begun, and now the HOA would have to respond in the light of law, not shadows. Back at the lake, he met with neighbors who had agreed to serve as witnesses. Together, they walked the shoreline, recounting memories and pointing out the upkeep Marcus's family had always maintained. Their stories formed a living record of ownership and care, a narrative impossible to ignore. Marcus realized that this fight wasn't just legal, it was personal and communal. The HOA had underestimated the strength of history, truth, and the support of the townspeople. Each sunny step along the dock reinforced his resolve. The next day, Marcus arrived at the lake to find a new challenge waiting. Two HOA representatives stood near the dock, frowning under the bright sun, this time armed with a stack of notices and an air of authority. Their presence was meant to intimidate, but Marcus stood tall, folder in hand. "Mr. Jefferson," the taller one began, "the HOA demands that you cease all activity on this lake immediately. We've sent multiple notices, and your non-compliance is noted." Marcus placed his folder on the dock and opened it. Sunlight reflected off the papers as he spread out deeds, county confirmations, and notarized statements from neighbors. "You're wasting your time. I own this lake, legally and completely. Your threats mean nothing." The representatives exchanged uneasy glances. Marcus noticed the subtle hesitation in their voices. The evidence he had gathered wasn't just documents, it was history, community support, and undeniable truth. "You may have paperwork," one said, "but the HOA has influence. Courts, local authorities." Marcus interrupted, his voice firm. "Influence does not equal ownership. And I am prepared to defend my rights every single day. The sun is out, the witnesses are ready, and the truth is visible. I suggest you reconsider your approach before this escalates further." The men left without another word, clearly frustrated. Marcus felt a surge of satisfaction. Their threats were just noise compared to the certainty he had built with facts, neighbors, and the clarity of daylight. Later, he met with more neighbors along the shore, reinforcing their commitment to support him in court if needed. Each story they shared, the summer picnics, fishing tournaments, and careful maintenance, added layers of legitimacy that no legal loophole could erase. By afternoon, Marcus was creating a presentation for the court, combining deeds, photographs, and personal accounts into a compelling narrative. The sunlight danced on the water as he worked, reflecting the determination in his eyes. This lake is more than property, Marcus thought. It's heritage, memory, and truth. And no amount of intimidation can take that away. As the sun reached its peak, Marcus stood on the dock, looking out over the sparkling water. The HOA may have tried to frighten him, but daylight revealed what truly mattered. History, law, and the support of the community were on his side. He whispered to himself, "Threats are empty. The light shows everything clearly. I am ready for whatever comes next." The sun rose over Pinewood Springs, casting long shadows across Marcus's property. Today, he knew, would bring the first legal counter from the HOA. They had lawyers now, and Marcus expected papers to arrive demanding immediate compliance or threatening lawsuits. By mid-morning, the HOA's legal team sent a formal notice to his home. They questioned the validity of the old deeds and tried to assert that municipal ordinances gave them authority over the lake. Marcus read the document calmly, under the sunlight streaming through his windows. He didn't panic. Instead, he called his attorney, a seasoned expert in water rights and property law. Together, they went through every clause, countering each claim with decades of records and community testimonies. The law was on Marcus's side. The HOA was simply hoping that fear and bureaucracy could override fact. By late morning, Marcus walked to the dock, papers in hand, feeling a mixture of determination and pride. He photographed each corner of the lake, documented repairs he had personally overseen, and made notes of neighbors' accounts of decades-long stewardship. He realized the battle wasn't just legal, it was symbolic. It was about showing the HOA that power alone couldn't suppress truth. The sun glinted off the lake, giving him a sense of purpose. Every ray of light seemed to reinforce his belief that he was in the right. By afternoon, he prepared his counter-filing, submitting detailed evidence to challenge the HOA's claims. Marcus knew that the courtroom fight was coming, but he felt ready. Standing on the dock, he looked at the lake, now calm and reflective. "This is our legacy," he said aloud. "No law, no organization, no intimidation can take it away while daylight shines on the truth." Late morning sunlight warmed Marcus as he made his way to the Pinewood Springs Historical Society. He had heard rumors that an old historian, Mr. Caldwell, kept archives about local properties and water rights. Marcus hoped this could be the final piece of evidence he needed. Mr. Caldwell, a small, meticulous man with glasses perched on the tip of his nose, welcomed Marcus warmly. "Ah, Jefferson," he said, scanning his records. "I've been expecting someone to challenge claims over the lake. Your family has owned these water rights for decades. There's documentation dating back to your grandfather and even earlier ancestors." Marcus felt a surge of hope. "Can you provide a certified record?" he asked. "Certainly," Mr. Caldwell replied, leading him to a room lined with old ledgers. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating yellowed papers. He pulled out a detailed ledger, confirming ownership and noting transfers of water rights. "This, combined with your deeds, is irrefutable," he said. Marcus spent the late morning photographing the ledger, taking notes, and ensuring every record was documented. Each page reinforced his claim, adding credibility no court could ignore. By afternoon, Marcus returned to the lake, feeling stronger than ever. He spread the historical records alongside his family deeds and neighbor testimonies. The sunlight sparkled off the lake as if validating his preparation. "This is it," Marcus whispered. "All the proof we need. No one can take this lake from us, not now, not ever." The HOA had been a storm, but Marcus now had a shield forged from law, history, and community. And in daylight, the truth was clear for all to see. Sunlight poured into Marcus's office as he arranged his presentation for the upcoming court hearing. Every document, photograph, and testimony was meticulously organized. He wanted to make it impossible for the HOA to dismiss his claim. Neighbors gathered at the lake that afternoon, offering statements and signing affidavits. Marcus took photos as they recalled fishing competitions, family picnics, and decades of care. Each story strengthened the narrative that this was more than just property, it was history. By late afternoon, Marcus reviewed his legal strategy with his attorney. Every loophole the HOA might exploit had been anticipated. Every historical fact had been cross-checked. The sunlight reflected off the lake as Marcus rehearsed his opening statement. "This is more than a fight for property," he told himself. "This is a fight for truth, legacy, and justice." The morning sun flooded the Pinewood Springs courthouse as Marcus entered with his attorney. The courtroom buzzed with quiet chatter. The HOA's representatives arrived shortly after, carrying stacks of papers and projecting authority. Marcus presented his evidence confidently: deeds, neighbor statements, photographs, and historical records. The judge reviewed the documents, sunlight illuminating each page as if highlighting the truth. The HOA's lawyer tried to argue technicalities, but Marcus countered each point calmly, backed by undeniable evidence. By noon, it was clear the court was taking his claim seriously. Leaving the courthouse, Marcus felt the warmth of the afternoon sun on his face. He knew the fight was far from over, but daylight had revealed the truth, and the HOA could no longer rely on intimidation alone. Back at the lake, Marcus rallied more neighbors who had witnessed decades of his family's stewardship. Children who had grown up fishing there, elderly couples recalling summer picnics, all offered statements in daylight, solidifying Marcus's claim. The HOA noticed this growing support. Letters began to arrive, increasingly frustrated and aggressive. Marcus remained calm, sunlight reflecting off the water as he filed each notice. The community's voice, coupled with legal evidence, created a formidable defense. One bright afternoon, HOA representatives arrived with a surveyor, claiming the lake boundaries were disputed. Marcus met them calmly, spreading maps, deeds, and historical surveys across the dock. "You cannot override documented history," Marcus said firmly. "This lake has been in my family for decades, and the law is on my side." Frustrated, the HOA left, realizing intimidation wouldn't work against daylight, truth, and community support. Marcus visited the county office under the morning sun, requesting additional documentation. Old water rights transfers and municipal confirmations emerged, strengthening his case further. Returning to the lake, Marcus spread the documents on the dock. Sunlight glinted off the papers, symbolizing clarity and transparency. Each record brought him closer to victory. News of the dispute began circulating in the town under the bright midday sun. Locals supported Marcus, praising his persistence and courage. Community members offered public statements and volunteered to testify if needed, turning public opinion decisively in his favor. The HOA, frustrated by daylight transparency and public scrutiny, threatened a lawsuit. Marcus calmly prepared counterarguments, backed by historical records, deeds, and community testimony. Each sunny day reinforced his position, highlighting their empty threats. Marcus enlisted a water rights expert to review his documents and confirm legality. Under bright daylight in the expert's office, every detail was verified. This testimony became a critical point in his court battle. Marcus rehearsed his statements with his attorney in broad daylight, visualizing each courtroom moment. Photographs of the lake, historical records, and neighbor testimonies were organized for maximum impact. Court day arrived, sunlight streaming through tall windows. Marcus presented evidence confidently, countering each HOA claim with facts, history, and witness testimonies. By late afternoon, it was evident that the law, and daylight, favored Marcus. The HOA's legal team began withdrawing claims as the overwhelming evidence and public support became undeniable. Sunlight reflected on the lake, symbolizing Marcus's triumph. Neighbors gathered on the dock to celebrate, the lake shimmering in the afternoon sun. Marcus stood tall, victorious but humble, knowing the fight was hard won. With the HOA's retreat official, Marcus finally relaxed under the warm afternoon sun. The lake, his family's legacy, was safe. Community, history, and truth had triumphed. Standing on the dock, Marcus looked over the sparkling water and whispered, "Daylight reveals truth, and truth prevails. This lake will always be ours."